Hey, welcome to Modified. Hope you're all doing well. This is a sign I saw outside someone's house, and evidently they're all over the place. And it's a sign to me of a lot of the virtue signaling and problems that are going on. So I'm going to break down these statements that appear on this sign and talk about them for a little bit. All right, so this video may be a little longer. I'm going to go through these things point by point. I mean, I could do an individual video on each of those statements, but I suppose driving towards a high school, seeing a sign with high school reasoning on it, and high school sentiment on it, is to be expected, but presumably an adult lives in that house and put the sign up, so it's kind of weird. So in this house, we believe, okay, Black Lives Matter. The Black Lives Matter movement has been established. I've talked about it many times. It's founded on a lie. The initial supposed cause for it, the Michael Brown incident in Ferguson, was not a hands up, don't shoot situation. It did not happen that way. Okay. Stefan Milano said, I think it was him, said he had a caller, an African American call in, and said that people in the community actually believed that it was an execution style shooting. Okay. So a lot of misinformation. Okay. Now, none of that is to suggest that at any time when a police officer exceeds their mandate and violently takes the life of anybody, we shouldn't be thoroughly investigating that, okay? And people are like, oh, all lives matter, blue lives matter. No, life matters, okay? That's the thing we all agree on. That's the bottom thing. The bottom line, excuse me. I mean, the rest is obfuscation and oversimplification. What do I mean by that? Well, and this is in a pretty well-to-do neighborhood. I mean, it's a nice area, and the house is really nice. The yard is really nice. So people shouldn't say that and feel good about yourself, feel like you're helping out an oppressed minority. And that's an easy way to do it, to hashtag, and it's a narrative that's easy to make sense of and feel part of, which is that there's an oppressor and oppressed. It's Hegel, it's, Nietzsche if you want, just the whole struggle between, right, two forces in any Hollywood movie, right? There's the man and then there's the people, right, against the man. But truth is stranger than fiction. Truth is more complicated than fiction. In this case, much more complicated. We substitute a simplifying narrative, which makes us feel better, for the real uncomfortable work that needs to be done to address real problems. In other words, if Black Lives Matter, and they do, because life matters, okay, then we got to get into Chicago and figure out what's going on with the home and why they're killing each other at an exponential rate in there. And that's difficult and messy and complex because you're talking about socioeconomic forces, you're talking about spiritual values, right, family values, all of these things that are difficult, addiction, all kinds of problems that are difficult to get into. And it's complicated and messy, and it means telling, you have to go tell people they're doing things wrong, and that's leading to the problems, because we all are, right? I mean, all we can do is look at how we're doing things, and it'll come to another point on this ridiculous list in a minute. Okay, but the idea is, that you just say Black Lives Matter, and you've assumed some sort of moral high ground, okay? In my house, we believe that life matters, okay? And the idea that anybody who doesn't say that the way you say it doesn't, it's ridiculous, okay? Life matters. Women's rights are human rights. Yeah, because women are humans. It's oversimplified again. Women in the West have more rights than anywhere, anytime in history. Attacking the West for women's rights and looking at the historical oppression of women in Western society, which isn't to deny that there has been for a long time. Okay, I'm a student of history, a student of literature. Decided to marry Wollstonecraft and others. Okay, yeah, there has been, but the West is the freest society for women that has ever been. And to demonstrate against, and claim that women are so oppressed in Western society is, again, a substitute for dealing with situations where women really are oppressed. Now, the Weinstein thing and all that, it's obviously horrible things going on, but they've been going on for years. And a lot of people on the left have been covering that up, right? I mean, Bill Clinton is a classic example. And someone on the right does it, of course, they're vilified. It's horrible. People on the left do it. They don't know what to do with it because you can't make it situational. It has to be every time. It has to be. It has to be the action, not the person. It's not heroic or noble within a free society to virulently protest for a woman's right to equal wages, which is clearly a goal toward which we should be striving and have striven. And the wage gap is a myth that's been thoroughly debunked. Okay, it's because of choices that people make and the willingness of men to engage in dangerous jobs that are worth more. The laws of the market. Okay, but a true and truly heroic commitment to the rights of women would be a true and truly heroic to what really are human rights, which is the right not to be sold as a sex slave, not to have fear of genital mutilation or honor killings, as it is in Islamic societies. And that's scary. That's tough stuff. Like going into the inner city to actually try to solve the problems of the African American community, say in Chicago or something. It's a substitute narrative. And, it's a funny thing, you said to demonstrate and scream how oppressed women are while wearing genitalia hats, and not note the fact that women only just now have gotten the ability to drive in Saudi Arabia. Right? Now, again, it isn't to say that we shouldn't be working on things for women. Of course we should. But perspective is important and understanding, right? You're not really, oppression, really, is genital mutilation, honor killing, right? Suppression of women's right to vote. Women can't go out without their husbands. Right? That's really oppression. So as far as being heroic goes and having a noble cause, if you're really about women's rights and not your own rights, then that would be where you would be putting your energy, and that would be noble and heroic against someone like I.28 Ali is doing, and undergoing real physical risk to herself to speak out against what is the oppression of women on an absurd and truly oppressive scale. Okay, human rights. And the more virulent you scream about it, the more empty the whole thing seems, the more a substitute it seems. Next, no human is illegal. This is a straw man of absurdity for those of you who aren't familiar with logical fallacies. Straw man is to set up a simpler version of the argument in order to attack it. So clearly it's directed at people who have concerns about illegal immigration, and it suggests that they're arguing that human beings are illegal. That people who are here illegally are illegal humans, which is ridiculous. Okay? Humans can't be illegal because legality has to do with actions. Okay? Not with people. And we're a nation of laws. All right? A murderer is not an illegal human. They're a human who has done something illegal. If someone breaks into your home and lives there without your consent and approval, they're not an illegal human. They are a human who has committed an illegal action, and you have legal recourse to remove them because they're humans who have committed an illegal act. Okay? The whole idea of a nation of laws and not of men is that no person is legal or illegal. That was the whole point. Okay? Before, the idea was the aristocracy was legal and everybody else was not, in the sense that the aristocracy could do whatever they wanted and not have consequences. Okay? And then this nation was founded to reject that idea. Okay? So humans are not illegal. But we have a problem, of course, right now, in that certain people, high up, and particularly, in either side of the government, aren't subject to laws. So in a sense, those people are legal. Yeah, they can do whatever they want. And have the power to, and the cooperation of enough people in the media and whatnot to cover those actions up. And those that don't. So if you take a picture of yourself near a submarine, and take that picture home, then you are prosecuted for divulging secrets, yeah, whatever, endangering state secrets. But if you're Hillary Clinton and you have an email server that's open source and can be accessed and vulnerable, well, then you're not. Well, that means you're illegal. In that sense, she's like a legal human, and the person who is an illegal human, right? I mean, because now you're not doing it based on actions, you're doing it based on who it is, okay? And so the argument here seems to be that no humans are illegal, but those humans in power who agree with me are inherently legal. They're legitimate. Same core word, legitimate, legal, right? Latin, leg, meaning law. There's either laws or there's not. That's it. Okay. Science is real. Is the next one on this sign? Yeah, no crap. But science means it always has to. Let's look at a couple things, okay? Now, how do you have this both ways? If science is real, then in the case of, say, transgenderism, you have people with X and Y chromosomes. That science says this is male, this is female. Okay? Now, there's different arguments about psychological stuff, but no evidence. I mean, they're still discussing the gender dysphoria thing, all this stuff. Okay, you know, the crucial thing about science being real is it's always open to reinterpretation. Climate change, yeah, I believe science is real. I also believe that science can be wrong because it has been wrong many times. That science always has to be open to new interpretation. That's the defining feature of science, is that it's perpetually open to new interpretation, that issues are never closed, that new evidence can always cause one to, can always change science, right? The minute science becomes dogmatic, you say science is real, what you mean is science is dogma. Because those who say question the impact of anthropogenic global warming, the degree that it affects things, you know, there's people pushing legislation to make it illegal for them to do that. Okay, that's what you do with dogma, not what you do with science. So yes, science is real, but what do you mean by science? You mean science or scientism? They're two very different things. Because the other piece of that is, and look at this, here's another instance of cognitive dissonance. If science is real, then science would establish that life begins at fertilization, right? A conception, excuse me. So that's science, but then you want to say, well, no, it's not, right? So technically, then let's take this a little further. No human is illegal, okay? So science is real. Life begins at conception. That's a human. Now then you start going, no, well, I mean when they're aware or when they're developed to a certain stage or something. Okay, but now you're not talking about science, right? You're talking about opinions, right? Here's what I think. And there's people who are trying to make science fit that and trying to argue that and whatnot. Again, what we're seeing here, though, is the question is a lot more complicated, right? Science is real. This is a classic instance of the tyranny of cliches, right? As though that's the end-all, be-all. So if you come into this house, these things will not be debated, yeah? Okay, so you've oversimplified them. Fair enough. Human rights. Right? What about the right of the female child at conception? If science is science, then that's when she starts becoming a person. And she's a human, because a human by definition is from life to death, right? We're all measured by our lives. Yes, science is real. No one's going to argue with that. Okay? To argue about what science means, how to interpret science, to remember that science always has to be open to new interpretations. And I'm willing to concede that science is open to new interpretations on things like transgenderism or the beginning of life, but I haven't seen any compelling evidence to suggest otherwise. And until then, we're all just speculating and theorizing, right? The same way we're theorizing with the climate change models that are done by computers, okay? Which we can argue that it's likely, but we know how prone to error those things are. And we also know that people are motivated to, I mean, when someone wants to prosecute someone for disagreeing with them, that's a red flag. It should be always. If you've got the truth, you don't need anyone. If it's the truth, you don't need to prosecute people, right? And science is supposed to be the area where personal opinions and motivations and politics doesn't come into it. But we have this idea that politics is everything, because politics is power, is money, etc. So science, which is real, now becomes part of a narrative in and of itself. Again, vastly oversimplified. To suggest that anyone who disagrees thinks science isn't real. Nonsense. Nonsense. Love is love. Tautology. Love is not love. What do I mean by that? Well, there's lots of different kinds of love. Caritas cupiditas in the Latin. Caritas is love of others to the loss of self, sacrificial love. Cupiditas is love of self through others. So you love someone or something because of how it makes you feel. That's a selfish love. Love is difficult. Love is a choice. Anyone who has kids knows that you can't just indulge your kids all the time, and that your kids have to learn and go through things that hurt them. And you don't want them to, you want to protect them, but if you keep them protected all the time, that's not love. Because that is keeping them as sort of an automaton, right? It's some sort of protected toy that you're not going to share. You're not going to let go out into the world and become their own person. That's the great risk of love. See, sacrificial love is uncomfortable. Love is not doing things that make you feel better, like hashtagging something or, yeah. Love is being willing to enter into discomfort for the sake of another person. It's willing to undergo hardship for someone else's sake. Not to point your finger and feel good about yourself because you said or did something that, you think was great. Did it actually help? Compassion, the tyranny of compassion. Every one of our virtues, as I've said before, can be taken too far. And the bottom line is this. For us, it's not possible to love everybody. In a Christian metaphysical sense, yeah. Of course. That is to say, to not wish ill on others, right? And to wish good things for them, sure. But love is an action. It's a choice. And you cannot, only God or some divine being, whatever you want to call it, can love everyone. Because you have to have limitless action. We have to choose those people upon whom we spend our lives, for whom we spend our lives. That's an act of love, and we can't do it for everybody. We just can't. Because we're mortal and we're limited. So if you love everybody, you love nobody. Because love means, for us, choosing some people. Not necessarily over others, as in you would take from other people. But it means you prioritize them. The people close to you, and yeah. So love is not love. Love is complicated. I wish it were simple, but it isn't. Not for us. Simple for God, because He can love everyone. Because He's boundless in infinite love and infinite energy, but not us. Kindness is everything. As I said just a minute ago, no, it's not. Sometimes you must be cruel only to be kind. I know this from 12-stepping, you have to tell people that they're wrong. You have to tell people that they're doing things you have to tell people things that they're uncomfortable with. You have to be willing to speak the truth. As much as you have to be willing to hear the truth when it's spoken to you. When people tell you you're screwing up, you have to be willing to hear that. Because you have to be more concerned with doing right than being right, yeah? But kindness isn't everything. I mean, I suppose it is in the sense that, you're being cruel to be kind. Okay, fair enough. And you could say, well, us telling you that no human is illegal and, putting our signs up is us being cruel to be kind. Okay, well, first of all, it's not cruel. It doesn't hurt my feelings, It irritates me because it's reductive, and it's part of the problem we're having right now is that everyone thinks that this is just, putting a sign in your yard makes you a better person than other people. And that anyone who doesn't subscribe to these ideas as you've articulated them on this sign is somehow not welcome, yeah? Or less of a human being, which is often how it comes across. And that's absurd. So, The sign was, to me, a sign of the times, a signal, a virtue signal, classic example, right? It's the hashtag Just with Charlie. It's the hashtag, you know, we're all blah, blah, whatever it is. Which is, again, the worst kind of indulgence. Because each one of those issues on there is a complicated issue. They can't be reduced to simple platitudes. They can't. Human nature wishes they could, that it were easy enough to just say that. But it's not. Because in your effort to help things, you might hurt things. As we said before, if you really think love and kindness is everything, and you're just going to be kind, and that it doesn't matter what kind of love you show, whether it's caritas or crepiditas, that's harmful thinking. It doesn't make things better. It often makes things much worse. But in that case, again, you're talking about being more concerned with being right than with doing right. And if we're doing that, we're off the rails. So, something to think about if you see these signs or if you talk to people. Let me know if you got questions or comments or want to argue with me about any of this stuff in here. I'm all about that, all about discussion, okay? Courteous debate. I don't want to suggest that someone who has a sign like this is a bad person. It's not that. As you guys know, I'm about ideas and making sure that, you know, we've thought things through. Smolin was talking the other day. A society that starts denying truth, denying facts, and oversimplifying things is not long for this world. So, and I would argue that, again, there are not many days left for a society that's more concerned with being right than with doing right. All right, thanks for watching. Cheers.